How did a very modest, small market team conquer the world's biggest stage? Yes, today's team is the Toronto Raptors. I want to talk about Canada's only NBA team. It was once the league's most underrated franchise. Today, it's comfortably recognized for its championship ring and an identity that has the entire country behind it. But of course, this team didn't reach its current status in just one simple season. After a process spanning more than 30 years, this journey took shape gradually through bold decisions and a few heartbreaks. Throughout this video, we'll count down the 10 moments that have had the greatest impact on Toronto Raptors history, and believe me, the number one pick will likely surprise many of you. Before we begin, I want to say that subscribing to the channel is the most effective way to support me, because even during the NBA season, I'll continue to post content you'll love on this channel. All right, now the countdown begins. Number 10. A nation's first basketball voice. Exactly 31 years ago, the Toronto Raptors stepped beyond the NBA's borders and into Canada. They joined the league alongside the Vancouver Grizzlies. So the legendary Isaiah Thomas was in the general manager's seat, and Damon Stoudemire was selected 7th overall in the first draft. Then something strange happened. Toronto fans actually booed their own draft pick. In other words, no one had truly embraced this young point guard, but Stoudemire proved them wrong. He immediately won the Rookie of the Year award in his very first season. The team managed only 21 wins that first year. If you ask why this was a turning point, it's because it was essentially the first time basketball took a breath in a hockey-dominated country. The first basket scored at the Sky Dome was like a seed planted across an entire continent. If it hadn't been for that night, neither this team nor a championship would have existed. Of course, every empire must have a starting point, and for the Raptors, this was exactly it. Number 9, the Lost Star. In the 1997 draft, the Raptors selected a high schooler with the 9th overall pick. His name was Tracy McGrady, and in an incredible coincidence, McGrady turned out to be a relative of Vince Carter, the team's rising star. Of course, the two only found this out during a family gathering, and Toronto had thus acquired the league's most exciting young duo. However, this situation didn't last long. On August 3rd, 2000, McGrady became a free agent and opted to go to Orlando, close to his hometown, via a sign and trade deal. He signed a 7-year, $92.8 million contract, and Toronto received only the 2005 first-round draft pick in return, a pick that was later used to select Fran Vasquez. And the bitter truth is that McGrady went on to become a league star and a 2-time scoring champion in Orlando. Toronto officially lost him before he ever reached his full potential, and this was likely one of the first major question marks in the franchise's history if McGrady had stayed and played alongside Carter for years. Number 8, one slogan, one nation. By 2014, the Raptors still hadn't fully established their identity. They were the league's outcast, the outsider from across the border. Then the Toronto-based agency Sid Lee came up with 2 magical words: "We the North." Creative directors Jeffrey Da Silva and Tom Koukoutimos launched the campaign in April 2014 ahead of the playoffs. And this was no longer just a slogan, it was practically a call to arms. Toronto embraced its outsider status not with shame, but with pride. On playoff nights, the plaza outside the arena began to overflow. Fans dubbed it Jurassic Park. Thousands of people gathered in front of the giant screens, and the campaign spread across Canada. So why did this change history? Because for the first time, the Raptors were not just a team, they were the pride of a nation. If it weren't for that identity, there wouldn't have been that insane fan pressure in 2019. So We the North was much more than a brand. It was the very embodiment of a sense of belonging. Number 7, the Flying Man. Yes, we're now back to draft night in 1998. The Raptors selected Anton Jameson with the 4th overall pick. Then they immediately traded him to Golden State. In return, they received a player selected with the 5th overall pick and cash. That player's name was Vince Carter. Before long, they were calling him Air Canada. Half man, half miracle. Every dunk he made was a cultural moment. He was named Rookie of the Year in 1999. Then in the 2000 Slam Dunk Contest, he mesmerized the world. Toronto made the playoffs for the first time. A hockey town fell in love with basketball. But the fairy tale ended badly. In 2004, a disgruntled Carter was traded to the Nets. The players acquired in exchange contributed almost nothing. He was booed for years, but time heals all wounds. On November 2nd, 2024, during halftime of a game against the Sacramento Kings, his number 15 jersey was raised to the rafters. He became the first player in franchise history to have his jersey retired. Who knows, if it weren't for Carter, Toronto might never have even appeared on the basketball map. Number 6, the Stars' departure. 23 years ago, Chris Bosh was selected 4th overall in the 2003 draft. He became the franchise's new face after Carter. To be precise, he was Toronto's cornerstone for 7 seasons. He broke nearly all the team's records. But in the summer of 2010, everything changed. LeBron James and Dwyane Wade were building a super team in Miami. Bosh joined them. He went to the Heat via a sign and trade deal. Toronto received 2 first-round draft picks in return. One of them later became Jonas Valanciunas. For the fans, this was a betrayal. But for the franchise, it was a rebirth. After Bosh left, the responsibility fell on the shoulders of a young player, DeMar DeRozan. At that moment, one door closed and another opened. Bosh's departure was painful, but it forced Toronto to rebuild from scratch the right way. Sometimes losing a star means gaining a future. Number 5, the rising new face. After the championship, the tide turned. Kawhi left. Kyle Lowry was traded to Miami in 2021. An era was coming to a close, but that same summer, Toronto made a bold move, surprising everyone. They selected Scotty Barnes with the 4th overall pick in the draft. Of course, generally speaking, most people were expecting a different name. Barnes, however, went on to win Rookie of the Year the following season. Then the franchise made some tough decisions. In 2023, Fred VanVleet left as a free agent to join Houston. In early 2024, OG Anunoby was traded to the Knicks. In return, they acquired R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley. Then the team's last championship-winning player, Pascal Siakam, was sent to the Pacers. Thus, an era officially came to an end. Toronto was now rebuilding everything around Barnes. In essence, this dismantling took courage because the franchise chose the future over clinging to the past. Number 4, the architect arrives. When the calendar read May 2013, Toronto brought in Executive of the Year Masai Ujiri from Denver, and the rules of the game changed. Ujiri's message was clear: we won't get stuck in the middle. First, he sent Andrea Bargnani to the Knicks. Then in December, he made the big move. He traded Rudy Gay to Sacramento. Naturally, many saw this as a white flag, but the opposite happened. That trade united the locker room around Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. Toronto returned to the playoffs that season for the first time in 6 years, and they haven't stopped since. Ujiri brought a winning culture to the franchise. What followed were 5 conference championships and historic win records. Without this man, Toronto would never have reached the top. A general manager's touch can be more valuable than anything on the court. Ujiri's arrival ushered in the Raptors' modern era. Number 3, the 4-bounce shot. It was May 12th, 2019, during the Eastern Conference semifinals, and this was Game 7. With the score tied at 90-90, there were 4.2 seconds left on the clock. The ball was in Kawhi Leonard's hands. He drove toward the corner and lofted the ball high over Joel Embiid. The ball bounced off the rim 1, 2, 3, and 4 times. Then it went in, and Scotiabank Arena was absolutely erupting. Toronto won that game 92-90. This was the first game-winning basket ever made in Game 7 in NBA history. So that night, Kawhi went 16 for 39 from the field, scoring 41 points, grabbing 8 rebounds, and making 3 steals. If I had to explain why this was so critically important, it's because Toronto had hit a wall in the playoffs in a similar way for years. That shot likely broke that chain of bad luck. It practically changed the franchise's destiny. If that shot hadn't gone in, the Raptors might never have become champions. Number 2, victory in the North. Let me describe a situation. In the Eastern Conference Finals, Toronto fell behind Milwaukee 0-2. Everyone thought it was over, but the Raptors won 4 straight games and took the series 4-2. They were in the NBA Finals for the first time in their history. Facing them were the 2-time defending champions, the Golden State Warriors, and this series was brutal. In a stroke of bad luck, Kevin Durant ruptured his Achilles tendon. In Game 6, Klay Thompson tore his knee ligaments. Toronto won that game 114-110. They closed out the series 4-2. Kawhi Leonard became the first player to be named Finals MVP with 2 different teams. The Raptors were the first team from outside the U.S. to win a championship. It was quite literally Canada's first NBA championship ring. Game 6 became the most watched basketball game in Canadian television history. An entire country took to the streets. A 24-year wait was transformed into what felt like an eternal victory in a single night. Number 1, the trade that put everything on the line. Yes, here we are at the top of the list. Many of you expected the championship to be number 1, but here's the reality: that championship might never have happened without this decision. In the summer of 2018, 8 years ago, Masai Ujiri fired Dwayne Casey, who had just been named Coach of the Year, and replaced him with Nick Nurse. Then he did the unthinkable. He traded DeMar DeRozan, the team's 9-year captain and the city's beloved star. In exchange, he acquired a star who was set to become a free agent the following year and was plagued by injuries, Kawhi Leonard. What's more, Toronto hadn't even consulted DeRozan beforehand. Fans revolted. This was perhaps the riskiest decision in franchise history. So why number 1? Because it proved that a small market team could put everything on the line and come out on top. Without that trade, there would have been neither that shot nor that championship ring. Thus, a single trade rewrote the franchise's destiny. And there you have it. We've discussed those critical moments that most profoundly impacted and transformed the Toronto Raptors. Of course, this story isn't just about one championship. Today, the franchise is entering a new era. Masai Ujiri, the architect of the 2025 championship, has stepped down, and there's been a change in management. And in the summer of 2026, Toronto took on another major risk. They agreed to bring Kawhi Leonard back. The same move, and for the second time. So will the same risk pay off once again? Now it's your turn. Which item do you think should have been ranked higher? Be sure to share your own ranking in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel because the North never sleeps.